All right, so insight 39. Okay, so insight 39 is about how external influences, external things happening, life in general on the outside of you has a lot of input into forming your ideas, generating your ideas. It's about you becoming aware of these influences rather than thinking that they are happening naturally from within you. So you're thinking that you go into certain thoughts, you develop certain emotions, and you think that you generate these ideas from within yourself, and you're not aware of how much influence there is from the outside. And so Insight 39 is about become aware of how and where your thoughts generate from. Not only where they come from, but how is it? How? Are your thoughts simply a mirror of what is taking place outside in your daily life? As we talked about earlier in other insights, your mind, you've heard of the expression mirror of the mind. So whatever you focus on through any of your senses, that reality that you're focusing on, whatever it is, object, person, situation, whatever that you're focusing on, is now perceived in your mind. Now it is in your mind. That becomes your reality. It's a mirror of what you're seeing on the outside, a reflection of it. So are your thoughts simply, meaning are your thoughts basically or mostly, are your thoughts basically just a mirror of what is taking place outside in your daily life? Meaning, do you go through life experiencing various thoughts, including emotions and actions that you get into, and they're just simply a mirror of what you see in your daily life? If this is true, you should seek to change your mind, enabling you to generate thoughts from your own self, rather than simply mirroring thoughts that have their origin on the outside. So the basics of it is just telling you to be more original rather than simply following along. To be more aware. Even if you're not original and you're gaining a lot of thoughts from outside, you need to be conscious and aware of it. This is not against following, because a lot of things we learned, how to talk, the language that we use basically, and how we form our sentences, what we get into as far as sports and whatever else, and fashion, and the way we walk, the way we do a whole bunch of stuff, the way we hold our spoons, the way we eat and what foods we eat, all these things, pretty much like 90% or more, a large percentage of what we do is mimicking. We learn through mimicking from others. It's not a bad thing. It has its place. If we did not mimic, the lessons that others have learned, we would not learn, and we would have to start from scratch, learning whatever in life that we need to learn. But if you learn from others, mimic and learn from others, you are way ahead you're way advanced. And so you can make further progress after what you have learned from mimicking others. You may progress in extending, expanding, improving, whatever it is. It could be a plane, computers, whatever it is. Okay? Very good. But here we just want you to be aware of how a lot of your thoughts are generated from outside, to be aware. Okay, I'm going to read from the explanation because it's very telling of the how. How the thoughts are generated. How is it that they are influencing you in quite detail. Okay, so daily we are bombarded with all kinds of advertising. Sure. Social expectations, right? And social norms, such as shaking hands, social expectations. I'm not into following others automatically. So that is a major reason why I don't want to shake hands. I don't shake hands. So I don't want to follow just automatically. So that's a social expectation. Okay, peer pressure and many more influences. Yeah, like the ones on the job, or having to keep the conversation peppy, meaning high-spirited, with friends. Often you're with friends, you get into. Sometimes there's some people who are not themselves while we're friends, and some are. Being in this game of life, even while driving your car, you succumb to feelings and emotions such as rage, frustration, stress, sadness, etc. Many of these feelings originate from your focus on the stresses of the outside world. Again, this is very important. Many of these feelings, rage, frustration, stress, etc., sadness, many of these feelings originate from your focus on the stresses of the outside world, which upon your acceptance, meaning validation of their existence, and with depth of focus on those stresses, you magnify and strengthen their influences on you. So here you are driving a car or something, and you see something, you focus on it, depending on your depth of focus, to that degree you're able to be influenced by the qualities of that situation. That situation could have stress, anxiety, all kinds of stuff, so it influences you because you're focusing on it. I say might because there are two things involved. What is the effect taking effect on you? The stresses is the amount of influence from the outside and your degree of receptivity. It's like a cup. If you have a cup and you want to pour drink, so some drink liquid in it. If there's no drink in the container, nothing will be in the cup. And if the cup is full, the drink will not get in there either way. So it's two situations. Amount of external influences and the amount of ability to receive those external influences. Then you might be overcome by those feelings of negativity, stress, etc. Think of external influences as a chaotic flood. Close the doors to your house when there is too much water outside, or it will come inside the house. Again, think of external influences, stresses, as a chaotic flood. Flood, like water. Close the doors to your house when there is too much water outside, or it will come inside the house. Likewise, your eyes and senses are a doorway by which the flood of chaotic information comes in, flooding your consciousness, which is your house, your mind. You could keep your eyes open, but do not grab on to the variegated, dramatic data sent your way, or it will undoubtedly affect your consciousness. Again, you could look at the data, but don't grab onto it. Don't allow it to come in, flood in. This is an example of how you're in your house, and you have a very secure house, such as the windows when they're closed, no water will seep in. You can still see outside there's a flood, but none of the water actually gets into your house because the windows are waterproof. Now, if you open the windows, you can still see the flood, and the flood will come in. Looking at data or information or stresses or all these things without being affected is similar to looking at the flood through a closed glass door or closed glass window. Okay, so you might simply believe the existence of the pressure. Your focus on pressure gives pressure realism to your mind and body. Therefore, you are affected by it. So it all depends on your state of mind. You're sitting there and if you're in a robotic state, then data comes, you see the stress, you recognize it, and you see it as valid, and it has the ability to affect you. You see yourself having to run away from it, fight it, or succumb to it, meaning to be defeated by it, affected by it. You see yourself in that hostile, unfriendly situation, and this perspective gives rise to frustration. Again, you're identifying with it. You say, I'm here, that stress is coming towards me. Oh, it's going to get me. Oh, I feel frustrated. It is important to look at everything, being the whole perspective, all of life, within and outside yourself, as opposed to focusing only on one situation, which is the limited perspective. If you constantly look on the outside, then that becomes real to you, and you are affected by the good or the bad of it. If your emotions and thoughts are simply a copy and a reflection of the environment, then you are not being conscious of your true self. Rather, you are conscious of circumstances outside of yourself, and you are conscious of the stress and the temporary happiness that the environment, including people, might cause you to feel. You at those moments are not generating thoughts on your own. You are just following life as it happens to you. You are following life as if you are programmed. Now we're going to go to example R, which is frustration on the freeway. Let us say that you are on the freeway and the automobiles are slow moving. You could hate life at that moment, but you are experiencing part of it, a traffic jam, which is human created and a part of city life. City life is not real life, it is human created version of reality. Life is not really a traffic jam on the freeway. Therefore, you cannot possibly hate life altogether. Rather, you do not like the position which you hold now at that moment. Okay, but let us now not blow it all out of proportion. By common sense, you should not be upset about life because of a traffic jam. When the mind focuses on one thing, and if the mind is established in that one thing, meaning for the mind to be established in that one thing, the outside phenomenon should make some sort of impression on the mind. A dramatic impression will have more impact. Then at that moment, that one thing becomes the mind's world. That one thing becomes the only reality that the mind is aware of at that time. And therefore, if at that moment the only reality which you are focused on is the frustrating traffic jam, then you will be extremely upset. Realize how the mind works and overcome its drawbacks, flaws, whatever, by reminding yourself of this information, which is to look at the whole, not just the part. Practice the affirmation to become perfect at it, meaning practice what I've just mentioned to become perfect at it. In regard to sexual advertising, you will notice that a technique that is often used in photography is that the lady seems to speak to you or to look at you in a certain way. With this effect, she is saying a lot without speaking in words. Yeah, so look at example S, which is entitled Enticing Incoming Messages of the Model. Tell me what you think of that.